Minister, obviously words matter. They matter a lot. Words can cast light, they can educate, they can build up, they can get to the truth, they can hold people to account, and they can inspire. But obviously words can do the opposite in many ways. They can be the vehicles of hate. They can be used for good and bad. There's no doubt about it. Aontú is a Republican political party. We believe in a republic where every citizen is equal, where the colour of a person's skin is of no more significance than the colour of a person's eyes. And in that Republican society that we want a place where everybody can live their lives without fear of incitement to violence or discrimination as well. But in the Citizens' Republic, everybody has also the equal rights to their views and the equal rights to articulate their views. In a civilised society, we need to do this respectfully. We need to raise our children with the ability to question, to challenge in a manner that does not cause needless hurt. And in truth, if we want to fight misinformation, we need to do that with information. If we want to fight hate, we need to tackle that with truth and decency. And if we want to remedy disinformation, we need to provide accuracy. Because the key issue, I think, that's been missed in this debate so far is that in a liberal democracy, the whole idea is that it's built on the purposes, on the system, that ideas can challenge each other fairly, that we can have an idea that in a respectful competition of ideas, the ideas that are the better ideas will percolate to the top and they will become the policy of a given society. And the truth of the matter is that the history of censorship has never ended well. It has been used as a tool of dictators throughout history who have stained the earth with the blood of millions of people. Censorship is authoritarian. It deletes the liberty of citizens to have that competition of ideas, and it reduces the ability of people to challenge and to test their prevailing ideology. And censorship not only leads to the erasing of citizens' rights, but it guarantees that the best solutions will not be achieved for societies. It means that societies can radically and speedily swing in any direction where the latest ideological fashion is blowing at a certain time. Also, it's important to say that censorship actually is an ingredient of conspiracy, because the more censorship that happens within a society, the less the society actually believe the authorities of the state, whether it be the government or whether it be sources of information as well. So there's a direct correlation between the more censorship and more conspiracy. And censorship happens in different ways. Obviously, in a legal fashion it can happen, but it can happen in a chilling effect in relation to stopping people talking about certain things. And it can also happen when media organisations actually curate information on the basis of what they think society adults can actually handle. And we've seen that in recent times where newspapers don't give certain information because they think that people in this republic are not able to handle and decipher and use that information properly. So in the past, obviously, censorship has been a tool of the political right. It has been used to delete democratic rights. And in the past, obviously, the left has been the sector of society who's fought censorship and has been a voice of ordinary men and women across the country. But in many ways, that's not the case. And what we're seeing is a move towards a more authoritarian type instinct amongst left-leaning political parties, unfortunately. And Ireland is actually now becoming known, unfortunately, internationally as a country that seeks to delete rights in terms of freedom of speech and democratic rights. So obviously the hate speech bill, which has become notorious internationally because it seeks to delete people's rights to interact on issues that are important in a democracy. The fact that it's two of the major elements of it, the definition of hate and the definition of gender ideology, are very weak definitions that are actually self-referential. And what I mean by that, if we ask a kid, what is a banana, and the kid says a banana is a banana, well, you'd probably accept it from a child. But if you ask a Minister for Justice who wants to jail people in terms of what they say, what is hate, and they say, well, hate is hate, well, then you got a problem. And that's why the world is taking note into the difficulties that's arising now in Ireland in cases of that. And even we saw recently where the government introduced legislation to stop peaceful protests outside of hospitals or doctors where abortions are being carried out. And it was interesting that it was the week before the violent riots in Dublin that this government banned peaceful protests outside of hospitals. And this is where the government, in many ways, have become so distracted by the culture wars that they've forgotten about the bread and butter crime and antisocial behaviour that is wreaking havoc in our society. And I would have real caution to the government in terms of how they regulate large international companies or social media organisations or digital information. I don't believe that people have the right to incite violence, and that should be a criminal offence, absolutely. But we do need the ability to communicate. I got an interest politically around, issues like Section 31, and I just thought it was interesting that Sinn Féin voted for the hate speech bill here in this chamber, but voted against it in the Seanad. And there was another example of the Sinn Féin flip-flop shop that has become, very prominent in recent politics as well. So dissent is a really key, important element of democracy. Dissent is a bulwark against intellectual fashions that often take hold in democracies, and we need to make sure that people have the right to dissent. Large tech companies have enormous power. They have too much power, absolutely. But history is also littered with governments who had too much power in terms of information as well. And I actually believe that the best way to tackle large international tech companies is around the issue of their dominance within society. And this is an issue that the European Union and this government has been really reticent about historically, is to tackle the dominance of these organisations. No organisation, media, tech, company should have market dominance. There needs to be a perfect competition within all these markets so that there's a diversity of views and no particular view has sway. I want to speak to another aspect of this particular bill, and that